Hey everyone, welcome to another Mortgage Fundamentals podcast. I am your host and subject matter expert, Daniel Mosqueda, and today I am joined by Christine. How are you
Hello,
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. How
Good.
how was your New Year's?
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the New Year's was low key. Our Christmas was really, really crazy. And
Mm,
so New Year's we were just like, we're staying in, get the cheese board out and
yeah.
hung out and just
Just get the cheese board.
coasted through midnight.
Yeah, make it simple as
Right.
as can be. But
Yeah.
since you haven't been here before, I normally have my guests kind of introduce themselves, some a little
Okay.
bit about themselves. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, my name is Christine Phillip. I am a real estate agent here in Las Vegas. I've lived in Las Vegas for about 6 years now. I am an active duty military spouse. My husband has been active duty for the last 14, almost 15 years, and I've been along
Ooh,
for the entire ride. It's been a crazy journey.
that's almost a life longer at this point,
Yeah,
right?
almost. We're this close to retirement.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I love living in Vegas. I love the just being able to go out and do whatever you want, whenever
Mhm.
you want. And easy to get home. We travel all the time back
Mhm.
and forth. It's nice to have like a hub
Yeah.
airport close by
Yeah.
because you don't always have that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got 2 kids and 2 dogs, and that's the basis. That's the foundation of my life.
That's
So
Christine's par right there.
Yeah, right. That's par.
Yeah. Yeah, Vegas is a great place to live though. In all
Yeah.
honesty, Christine touched on some points. A hub in Vegas
Oh my gosh.
makes it so much easier whenever
Not
you go
just an
places.
airport hub too. Like you can drive a lot of places
Yeah.
here in a very short amount of time and
Yeah.
see so much stuff. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we got that. Like, what do we got? We got Mount Charleston, which is nice.
I love Mount Charleston.
Area.
We are from the Midwest originally, so
Mhm.
getting up to see snow
Mhm.
once a year is a lot nicer than
Mhm.
having to live in it for 6 months. I don't know if some of you agree or disagree with that, but I enjoy that part.
I'm a city kid, so.
Oh, okay. No, you don't even go up there once?
Oh, I love Mount Charleston. I'm talking
Okay.
about living in the snow.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No way.
That's
I wouldn't be able to do it.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's cold.
Yeah. That and the getting ready in the morning. So
Oh yeah, you got to brush the car off.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
do something to your
You know
driveway.
what though? I've never ever shut in the driveway, but I've
Mhm.
never lived in the like snowy area and had remote start. That was like kind of after I moved away. And so I
Mhm.
bet it's a lot better now when you can just like start the car and have it warm up without having to go outside and start it.
Yeah.
Because that was
Yeah.
funny.
And it depends on what kind of car you have. 'Cause
Yeah,
from my
true.
understanding, like if you have an electric car, cold weather is pretty bad for the
Oh,
battery, or at least
I mean, maybe.
it loses battery charge faster.
I
Is
don't
what
know.
it is.
I
But
haven't heard that.
but I digress.
Yeah, right.
But I digress.
I digress.
But today, guys, so what we're going to be talking about today is VA loans, the
Yes.
benefits of VA loans,
Mhm.
and just anything kind of related to that. We'll talk a little bit about the city and different areas that are probably really great for VA buyers.
Yeah,
But it's really
absolutely.
going to be, I think we're talking about dependent on where you're at. So,
Yeah.
or at least what you want for your family.
Yeah,
In a
absolutely.
sense. So we'll start off with the basics. So for those that don't know, a VA loan is specifically for VA buyers, veterans, active duty military, anybody who's been honorably discharged from the military and has served a sufficient amount of time. So the VA offers you an entitlement to be able to purchase a home, or at least put the down payment or cover the down payment spot of it. It's not necessarily putting a down payment. It's insuring your loan up to a certain amount in
Yeah.
a sense. So you don't have to put anything down when it comes to purchasing your primary residence.
And if I could just add to that, I think like one of the biggest misconceptions is that you hear 0% down and that means that you don't pay anything out of pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily true. It's just
Mhm.
the down payment portion not required. There are still out of pocket costs that
Mhm.
come with buying a house with
Yeah.
the VA loan.
Yeah.
But not having a down payment is a huge benefit.
No, well, let's look at some of like the other programs, right? Like the FHA, you need 3.5% down.
Right.
Let's just assume a $300,000 home, you're saving $10,500 right
Yeah,
there,
right
right?
there.
With conventional, you'd have to put 3% down or 5% down, depending on the program.
Yeah.
So you're either saving with the same $300,000 home, you're either saving $9,000 or $15,000,
Right.
right? Not having to do that. So when you compare it to things like that, that's a big thing. And not only that, interest rates are great.
Interest rates are great, and no private mortgage insurance.
No
That's a
private
huge
mortgage
one.
insurance.
That's a huge one.
Yeah,
What
so-
is that? What is?
What is a
I don't
private
even know what.
mortgage
I don't have it. I don't know what it is.
Oh, man. I don't either, but that's because I have enough equity in my house, thank God.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, one of the benefits to having a private or to having a VA loan outside of the 0% down is you're gonna have better rates, and you're gonna have no private mortgage insurance. And I know I've talked about this before. The two key benefits of not having private mortgage insurance and having a lower rate is either your payment's gonna be lower
Yep.
if you decide to have a price cap on what you're gonna purchase, and you can purchase more, or you're going to be able to afford more, have more buying power.
Yeah,
Right. Because you don't have to
absolutely.
include that into it.
Right.
So that's at least a few of
Just
the
a few.
positive. Yes,
Yeah,
a few.
right?
Just a few of the
There
benefits
are
of
more,
doing
but
VA.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
but dude, VA loans. I've said this before. VA loans are my favorite loans to do. To be honest
Oh,
with you, and
awesome.
it has a lot to do with the fact that they're just simpler and easier
Yeah.
to deal with because if you know the guidelines. But helping active military
Oh,
duty
yeah.
get into homes, people that have retired. I've had people that haven't even ever used their military benefits and they're like 50, 60 years old using them now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I know there's people out there who think that, you can only use it one time or you
Mhm.
can't have more than one at one time. You can't use it for rental. And there's stipulations with a lot of those, but
Mhm.
still not
Yeah.
100% true.
Yeah. Well, if you take advantage of it earlier, I think it becomes a lot easier to what's the word I'm looking for? Be able to take advantage of things like maybe you have a rental
Yeah,
property, right?
definitely.
And we'll touch on that a little bit, but I think just to get into a little bit, VA loans are I'll touch on this. VA loans are specifically just for primary residence only when you're making a purchase.
Correct. When you make the purchase initially,
Yeah.
has to be a primary residence.
Yes. Cannot
Yep.
be a second home.
Correct.
Cannot be an investment property
Correct.
or any of that sorts,
Yeah.
right? So you have to make sure that it's a primary residence. The other stipulation with these VA loans is normally you cannot have two. So normally you probably won't be able to have two in the same state or in the same city for the most part.
Okay.
However, you can't have two if like you're being restationed. Like that's why if you're active military,
Right.
that you start off, let's just say you're in Montana and then you're getting moved to Las Vegas. You used a partial of your, you bought one here. You can use another VA loan here.
Yeah.
Right. Have you done that?
I haven't yet. No, this was our first city that we actually bought a house in.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hopefully you don't leave us though. But anyways,
I hope. I mean,
yeah, I love.
it would take a lot for me to have to go,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, and you guys only have 5 more years, so it doesn't really matter. But I digress on that.
Right.
So what you can do is when you're doing like a relocation, in a sense, is as long as when you're applying and you're using that zero down, we're using a portion of your entitlement. You have a certain amount of entitlement, is what they
Right.
call it,
Mhm.
in order to insure up to a certain amount,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So if you bought a house, let's just say for like $100,000 or $200,000 in a different state, and you come over here and you buy it for a certain amount, and you still have enough entitlement to cover that, you
Right.
could still potentially put zero down on both properties.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I think the entitlement is kind of where people get confused because
Mhm.
it's the total amount that you're allowed to borrow,
Mhm,
right? And so you think that just because you have one, you can't use any more, but really there's like a maximum amount that you're allowed to
Mhm.
use. If I'm correct, you can
Yeah.
correct me. You're
yeah,
the
no, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Simply,
So if you only use $100,000
Mhm.
in another state, but move
Mhm.
here and you need $400,000, if under your entitlement based
Mhm.
on, I'm guessing, rank, time in service, a lot of different factors that kind of go into what you're able to borrow, or is
my
that
time of service I think is the key one.
Okay.
I think you have to meet a certain threshold. I'm not exactly 100% sure when or how much time you have to have in there.
Okay.
But I think it does have
Yeah.
a little bit to do as to how much entitlement you will
Right.
have at a certain point.
Okay.
Right.
So then, but you're saying like regardless of that, though, as long as you have enough in there, you can use both.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Easy.
And then the 0% down thing.
Mhm.
Now, let's say I had a house in another state. I come here. I need to make up. I need to make up like the difference of what I have left in my entitlement and the purchase price of my property in cash. Then I can still use my VA loan if it doesn't cover the whole.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
So I did that with another client recently. It was a couple years ago. And he had a partial entitlement, but he was also putting a certain portion down as well.
Okay.
So we just do we find out what your entitlement is. We'll do the calculations and we'll figure
Okay.
out and we'll tell you, hey, this is how much it's being covered, and this is what you need to come in with out of pocket for the down payment.
Okay.
All right. So that way you guys understand that yes, you can only purchase a primary residence for a VA loan, but yes, you can also have two VA loans as long as it makes sense. And it's usually only if you're being restationed somewhere.
Right. And then the first house that you have your VA loan on,
Mhm.
normally there's like a time in residence threshold you're supposed to meet.
You should be there at least a year.
Yeah, a year.
However, like you can't really control when you're going to get.
Exactly. Right. And they don't really
Yeah.
like, I think I've heard the analogy for like, no one's knocking on the door asking how long you've lived there, you know, like maybe they are. Oh, you don't seem to agree with that. Interesting.
VA probably not.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because obviously, if you're using VA and you are stationed somewhere where you might as well just stay at the house you just bought, right?
Yeah.
But FHA convention and the other ones,
Oh, okay.
they might.
Yeah.
They might.
That makes sense.
Be
Okay.
careful with those.
Yeah. All right.
But but with VA, no, I think that's, and the reason I brought the whole like moving from one place to the other up in a sense was because that's kind of like when we were talking about like how you can make it an investment property.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? That's how you can use your VA loan to work for you in a sense. Now you have this other property that you can actually keep, and as long as you can afford both payments and their other rents can be covered, now you have a rental property here and a primary residence here using your VA loan.
Yeah.
In a sense. So that's why I think it's a little easier when you're active duty to start a little bit earlier.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
don't hesitate.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think, like I always say, I get a lot of people, active military, who are looking for rentals. And I'm like, have you talked to a lender yet?
Yeah.
Because based on the rent that you're looking at, you may be able to purchase. Like, let's get you on the phone with somebody just to ask the questions. You know,
get a housing allowance.
Yeah, you get the housing allowance. Absolutely. And then, but like I said, I think people they just don't know, because when you get a rental, you have a lot of fees up front too for rentals. A lot. You have security deposits. If you have pets, you have pet deposits. And I've seen pet deposits be as much as the security deposit. So you got to pay like 3 months rent up front. And if you're looking at a rental property that's $2,200, you know, that's what, $6,600 out of pocket.
Yeah.
That actually could go towards
your
closing costs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Easily. And that's just saying the least. And that's only for people that have like pretty decent credit at that. You're kind of getting away with that with rents, right?
With rent, yeah.
Like if you have pretty bad credit, they're probably going to try to pull you for a little bit more cash. And the good thing about VA loans is that you can actually, excuse me for having the water there. You can actually,
we all get thirsty. It's okay.
You can get a VA loan with a credit score as little, at least with our bank, as little as like 540.
Wow.
Right.
That's great.
So you're still getting 0% down when you're doing that, right? So you only have to worry about the closing costs. And the other key thing is too is you may not even need to come up with all the closing costs.
Exactly. I was going to say, let's talk about our market, because we're still seeing a lot of seller concessions and sellers willing to give you money from their equity to put towards your closing costs.
Yep.
So it really may not be as much as you think.
Yep. So it's always a good idea to at least check to see what you can qualify for. Absolutely. And you got to look at it this way too, guys. Like, this is just a little tip in here, and I'm probably going to talk about this in future podcasts, but you know, if you're living out here and let's just say you have friends out here that aren't military and you're purchasing a home, you may not be able to use this to help you qualify for the property. But I'll give you a story. So I used to work for the Teamsters over here, the trade show Teamsters 631. And I worked with a bunch of different people. There was a couple of young kids. One of them, he purchased a home, and he had a couple of the other guys actually move with him and pay rent while he was living there.
Yeah.
So this guy was able to not only get into a home, he was able to get help to not have to pay that full mortgage, because he was young enough. He was in his early 20s to still have roommates and be okay with it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I see that all the time, constantly on the yard sale page. We have a room for rent, you know, $600 a month or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, it happens. I've known people even from my husband's shop who have people living with them and renting from them. That's a great point to make. Like, you can buy it and then rent out the rooms.
Yep.
And have them help you pay your mortgage.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be a stranger.
No,
you know
it can be your friends.
Yep.
Yeah. And airmen, definitely, like in the dorms and stuff like that, there are people who would probably prefer to have a little bit more space, you know?
Yeah, that's
definitely.
True. Yeah, and then if you're actually living with a friend, like you're always hanging out with these people, and I know, especially like if you're in military or any kind of job in general, like if you have time to spend time with friends, if you don't have a family specifically, then why not? At least you get to hang out with people after work.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And I think that the last big point I want to make too with buying a house, especially here in Las Vegas, is that our market is so strong. Like, you're going to make equity. And it's very much, I'm not saying unlikely, because maybe you can. Yeah. But there's a good chance that you'll earn a lot more in equity on your home than you can save in the same amount of time, just putting money in the bank. Yeah. Like, it's a good chance. I can't guarantee it. Yeah. But I can say, even from experience, there's a very good chance.
Yeah. So I will say this. I know that I've been having a lot of phone calls, and I'm pretty sure that when you're talking to clients, a lot of them are still waiting for this epic crash to happen. And
Yeah.
you know, I will say this: anything's possible. You know, in order for that to really happen, there'd have to be a lot of foreclosures. In order for a lot of foreclosures to happen, there'd have to be like the perfect storm where a lot of people lost their jobs and
Yeah.
all these things happen. I will say that some of the programs like conventional loans have tried to implement some safeguards to make sure people don't lose their homes. Like I think they've permanently implemented that they can do a 6 month. What did we do during the pandemic again? I always forget what it's called.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
that thing.
That thing.
Or you don't have to make payments for a certain amount of time,
Yes.
and then you just put it at the end.
I guess like furlough type.
Forbearance.
Forbearance. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I know that they've implemented some things where as long as you show hardship,
Yeah.
so they'll allow you to do a forbearance for about 6 months, which gives you 6 months to not only at that point you might be collecting unemployment, so you should be able to use that money to at least survive while you
Absolutely.
look for another job.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're probably not going to be losing the home as fast. You just got to know about these things, obviously, right? So educate yourself on. Don't just lose your house, guys. Educate yourself on what you could possibly do to save it. This is one of them, especially if you're doing a conventional loan. I'd have to look into VA loans specifically to see if they have that option.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure there's always things to help. I've seen some things online where they always try to help VA buyers or VA homeowners, you know.
Oh yeah,
protect their
absolutely.
homes.
I can probably speak with much confidence that there are absolutely programs out there to keep vets from losing their homes.
Yeah.
100%. And I saw something recently too, actually, and I wanted to ask you about this because I wasn't sure if you offer it, but I saw a HIP, which is home is possible for heroes.
Yes.
So what is that?
So Home is Possible Heroes is one of the down payment assistance program grants that they actually have here in Nevada. There are plenty of them. But this one, I'll say this: Home is Possible, all their programs offer it for VA at least, right? They have Home is Possible first time home buyers, Home is Possible Heroes one. They got one for Home First. You don't necessarily need it for a VA loan,
okay,
but you can use it if you want, because you can use that towards your closing costs. If you want to do
you
it
can use it towards closing costs.
Yes.
Okay, because you hear down payment assistance, and I just assume it's only for down payment.
Certain programs are very specific and will only use it towards the down payment.
Gotcha.
Okay, there is one program that they have that can only be used towards the down payment. There's some in California, because I just did a loan with my brother out in California as well, where the program specifically only covers the down payment, and then they have a specific tangent program to cover closing costs. So it's really each grant or each program is always going to be a little bit different, right? So they're gonna have their own little caveats. They're gonna you're just gonna have to understand them and know what they're gonna cover, and that's why your lender should really sit there and make sure that you understand what they're for or how you can actually use that money.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about this before, or at least I've talked about this before. Seller credits can only be used towards closing costs.
Yes.
Not your down payment, ever.
Right.
Maybe in the future when if things change legally, but I'll digress on that topic too, since it's a really hot topic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I think too, just like, talking about seller credits real quick, remembering that money you get from the seller helps you more now than lowering price.
100% agree.
Yeah,
1000%
absolutely.
agree.
Like if instead of asking for a $10,000 decrease in price, ask for the $10,000 in concession, because that's less money out of your pocket you're spending now. It can still lower your monthly payment. And yeah, it's just going to be a much bigger help. So same thing, like asking the lender, ask your agent. And you don't have to, like, for me personally, you can ask me anything anytime. Like you can text me, reach out on Facebook, and I'll answer your questions for you. I know there's a lot of questions out there.
She's showing her age with Facebook.
Okay, well, that's where my crowd is still at. Instagram is fine too. I don't have TikTok. I don't have TikTok. I don't have Snapchat.
I don't have Snapchat.
I'm limited to my social medias, and I kind of stick to the big ones.
Yeah. I haven't done Snapchat in years. I was younger,
I think I had it for like 6 months in 2016, and then I don't know. It wasn't for me, I guess.
It's a different app these days.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, seller credits are key. They can make things a little bit less cheaper. I think I brought up a story before. I had a client where she was debating between like, oh, why don't I just get it for this amount, but I can do this? I was like, look, I'm going to send you some numbers. Here's what it looks like when you purchase the home at this price with no seller credits.
Yeah.
And here's what I can do with those seller credits. I think we asked for about $11,000 on a certain price range of a home. Not only was I able to get those $11,000 in credits down to lower her rate.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I was
we
able to
gotta
lower
talk
her
about that.
rate. I was able to lower her payment, and she still paid less out of pocket.
Yeah.
So
There's
there's
yeah.
you just there might be situations where that might be true, where it might be better, but you don't know until you have somebody actually take a
Absolutely.
look at that
Take a
stuff for
look
you.
at it, run the
Yeah.
numbers, and like you said, two things: buying down the rate,
Mm-hmm.
which is something we hear about all the time,
Mhm.
but that's a huge help.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, I wanted to just mention that with VA loans, there is a maximum amount that you can ask for with seller credits.
Yes.
Yes? You look a little apprehensive.
I am.
Okay. So, share.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I'll say this because I don't want to give away my trade secrets.
Okay.
But yes, technically 4% is the max amount that you can actually ask of the purchase price for seller credits. But I'll just say this: my team is very, very good and very creative about a lot of things.
Okay.
So that's one of the key things why I personally love VA loans, is because I'll tell you this: when you're doing a home loan, mortgage loan, right? It's like legal jargon, like a lawyer. They're just reading between the lines. You're just trying to figure out what you can do with what they presented you in those words, right?
Okay, yeah.
So you're always trying to work within the lines of what they gave you. You know what I mean? Some
Yeah.
people only color right in the center, maybe reach out, but we try to color as far close to the line as we can
Okay.
when it comes to these things. So it's always good to have somebody who's going to understand these loans. And
Yeah.
I will say this, and this is kind of a topic I wanted to bring up, to be honest with you, was there, I know there's companies that will say that they work specifically only for vets.
Yes.
Okay.
I know where you're going with this, and I already agree with you. But go ahead.
Who cares if they only work with VA loans? I work with all kinds of loans. And let me just tell you this, right? The lender matters as the lender themselves. The company matters as well for what company they work for, because of whatever products they may be able to offer, how the flow works, and as long as they're able to get things closed and doesn't make it harder for both the buyer and for the lender themselves, or even the agent. And that's why I love the company I work for, because everything's just so good. And I told my processor the other day, I tell people all the time, you guys are amazing. My processors are amazing.
That.
My LOAs are amazing. But I digress on that as well. But my point is, like, just look for a lender that you're going to work comfortable with, and you know is going to be able to do these loans.
Yeah. And we did a video before too about using a local lender as well, where you're purchasing your house, because you know this market better than anybody, and you see what these seller credits can go for. Like you said, you know where to color in and out of the lines.
Yeah.
And so if you go with a bigger company where you're going to be calling the 1-800 number every single time and getting a different person servicing your loan, they're not going to know the specifics of our area necessarily. And so it just pays so much more to get with people who are here, who are living it every day, are watching the changes happen as they happen. Because, and even like, I've talked about this before, where and not even like Las Vegas is a huge marketplace, but we have like little micro markets within our marketplace, even depending on what your zip code is, it can be a completely different market from a different zip code, And so having somebody here who understands that and can tell you, okay, well, yeah, they're doing this out in Sky Canyon, but down here in Henderson, we're seeing more of this, or anything like that, it just helps so much. And so it's really, I feel like, important, like you said, to just work with somebody that you feel good with, that you trust, that you can contact, and they're going to contact you back and get the same person every time, and who knows the product that you're using.
Yep. 100%. 1,000. A million.
Million
We'll
percent.
go billion.
Right? We're like in outer space.
Yeah.
To the edge of the universe and back.
Can't touch this. But yeah. So like that's okay. That's my rant personally. I personally feel like people need to understand that just because these people have these VA names to it doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't mean anything.
Does not mean a thing. You know what I mean? So just get with somebody you're going to trust, somebody you're going to be very knowledgeable in what they do, somebody who will get the job done. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I will say this: there is a bank that deals with VA loans. I'm not going to say the name of the bank, that I actually had someone have to bring that loan when it was supposed to close in a week, saying that they didn't want to do it for some specific guideline, and we were able to do it. So overlays are another thing.
That's a big point to make, is that different financial institutions are able to do different things too, and so just because one tells you no doesn't mean another one will. Also.
Absolutely.
So shop around.
Yeah.
Talk to different people.
Now there are reasons we might just say no. All of us might say
Yeah,
no.
of course, right? Yeah, like
Yeah.
I get that, but I'm just saying, like for this, but this,
Yeah. But in general,
in this
yeah.
instance,
Overlays. I know I've talked about it before. Overlays. Okay, just so we talk about it on this podcast as well. Overlays are this. Let's just say these guidelines. When you read the guidelines for VA, right? These are your minimum requirements, right? A bank can make things, or lender, whomever can make it, can either keep to those guidelines or make them stricter, but they can't make them less strict.
okay,
Okay. And I use this example every time. FHA minimum credit score is 540, right? You cannot say, okay, I'll take credit FHA loans at 500. You can say I'll take them at 580,
okay,
but you
okay,
cannot say I'll take them at 500 because now you don't meet the FHA guidelines.
gotcha.
Right?
Okay, yeah,
So it just know that just because it says this guideline somewhere and you read it somewhere, those banks can technically make it more strict. And for the most part, and the knowledge that I have with the company I work with, we try to work by just the guidelines. That's why I always mention or I bring up the guidelines, is because I always read them. And for the most part, we take those as like scripture. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like we're going to actually follow those guidelines.
sure,
You know what I mean? There might be far few in between cases, but I haven't ran into one just yet.
okay,
Yeah.
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 That's good though,
Yeah.
because it makes me feel safer working
Mhm.
with you, knowing that you're not like doing some shady back end stuff,
Oh, it's not shady. I'm not trying to make it harder.
No, right,
I'm
right,
not
right.
trying to.
But that's how the recession happened,
That's
like
true.
things were just they were
Oh,
doing everything
that's
for
just
everybody.
laissez-faire, kind of like just tell me what you make.
Yeah, and
That's fine.
so that's another thing to remember too, is that like we're not in that type of market
Mm-mm.
anymore, and we
Mhm.
even can't be. There's so many guidelines now that they've put out to keep that from happening again.
Guidelines, regulations,
it's a
things that
good
we have to
thing.
follow. We have to get
Yeah.
licensed every single time. You have to run a background check on me every year. It's
Yeah, I get why though.
so annoying.
Not for you in particular, maybe for other people.
Yeah.
But you know how that goes.
Yeah. But
One person has to ruin it for everybody.
but the one thing I was going to also bring about the market, because we were talking about that earlier too, was you said that like this market's a little bit safer. So one of the things I wanted to bring up was some data. So I know that during 2022, especially around October on forward, we did have a decrease in prices
Yes.
just about everywhere, right? Because that's
Yes.
when interest rates really started to show that they weren't going to come down, because people had anticipated at that point that rates were going to start dropping, but they
Mhm.
did quite the opposite
Right.
all through 2022. But home prices did decrease, specifically nationwide, until maybe March of last year.
Mhm.
And then things started to appreciate once again, at least
Yeah.
on a national average. But also here in Las Vegas, they've actually started appreciating again since I believe like June or July.
Yeah, actually, I was going to comment on that because, we took decreases maybe from like November, December, January.
Mhm.
But I think January, February, March, it was pretty flat.
Was it flat?
I was pretty flat.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember it being like one of those things where like we were expecting it to go down more, but we're all like, huh,
Yeah.
no, they're kind of flattening out.
Yeah.
So I don't think we took as long of a hit as maybe other places may have.
There are some places that took a bigger hit, and there's always data on that, and it'll always tell you like which are the top 10 nations that, or top 10 cities, metropolitan areas that probably took a bigger hit.
Yeah.
Vegas did take a pretty big hit. I think we lost on average anywhere between 5 to 10%, depending on what
Yes.
part of town.
Yes.
Right.
Definitely.
So, and then some areas maybe still kind of manage to maintain their value in a sense, but right now we're kind of starting to notice an increase. And so the people that are starting to wait to buy, waiting for
Yeah.
this big crash that we're like I was talking about
Yeah.
earlier, data shows otherwise, man.
Right. And I think I don't hear as many people anymore saying that they're waiting for things to like bottom out or things
Mhm.
like that. It's right now the biggest thing that I'm hearing about is the interest rates aren't where I want them to be to purchase.
That's cool.
And I think I have like two like kind of schools of thought for that because of course a lot of you'll hear like on the agent side is like people, and it's true that like if the rates do come down,
Mhm.
once they do, you
Mhm.
might see this huge influx of buyers.
Mhm.
We're going to be overpaying again for properties. It's kind of
Mhm.
going to have like that little cycle again. But I don't know if it will be as bad just because, like, I know for me personally, I have a low rate on my home.
Mhm.
If rates come down to 5%, I don't
Mhm.
know if I'm still willing to give up my
Depends on your
lower
payment and what
rate.
you can
Yeah,
get.
exactly.
Depends
So
on
I'm
what you can
I'm
get.
wondering if people will still who have those really low rates are
Mhm.
going to be as in a hurry to sell.
You
I don't know.
it might, for some people, it might entice them to actually move a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can look at it from a few different reasons, a few different ways, right? Let's assume these people have no debt and they have a 5% rate versus like a 2 point something. I might not be inclined to do it, right?
Yeah.
However, let's just say you're a person who has a 3% rate, rates are at 5%. You have, let's just say $200,000 of equity in your home, right? Let's just random number. And but you also, for some reason, accumulated a lot of debt.
Yeah.
You have two options. You can either refinance your house, take out a home equity line of credit, and pay that stuff down. Or if you're like, I've been thinking about moving anyway, you can actually sell that house, use that equity, be
That's
debt
totally
free,
true.
and then
Totally
just get
true.
yourself into another house and probably still have a lower payment overall
Yeah,
than
that's
having
very
all
true.
that debt with that
Yeah,
payment.
right.
You
I
know what I
just
mean?
think about back in like, 2020, 21 when the rates went down so much, everybody was selling because they knew they could buy a house with a really low rate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to see.
Well, everybody's anticipating something, but in all honesty, you got to look at it this way. It's very hard to anticipate anything in this
I
market.
know, yeah, right.
And no one has a crystal ball. No one
Nope.
can really foresee the future. All we can really do is base it on data, historical events that probably happened in the past, but this is a very unique moment in history for
Yeah.
us in terms of the mortgage industry. So it's really hard to figure out where we'll be
Yeah,
sometime soon.
absolutely. But I definitely think that like it this type of market though, where there aren't as many people out there,
Mm-hmm.
regardless, if you can afford to buy,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely do it. If the rates go down, refinance.
Mhm.
Let's talk about refinance for a second.
I wanted to bring
Because
that up. Actually,
VA refinance, this was new to me when I
Yeah.
got into the real estate
Mhm.
injury industry. Maybe it is an injury. I don't know. No, I'm just joking.
it's a
But
mental injury.
it's a mental injury,
Emotional
but
and mental.
emotional. But anyway, when I have we have used our VA loan benefit to buy our house here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And so we bought our house in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So when the rates did go down,
Mm-hmm.
I did not know the refinance process was as simple as it is, or I would have done it because I talked myself out of it because I just didn't know. So walk us through it.
Two loans have really great options when it comes to refinancing, and they make it really easy. The first one is FHA. FHA has a streamline option. It has a couple of streamline options that you can actually code a couple of different ways.
Okay.
Very minimal documentation, very minimal review, right? Easy peasy, and I think the fees are a little bit lower too for certain things. The other one is VA. VA has something called an IRRRL.
Earl.
An Earl.
Yeah.
An
Earl.
An Earl. And the process is just as easy, if not maybe easier than the FHA refinance process. So don't worry about what the rate is today. Again, if you can get into that property, you're probably going to be better off buying it now because at 8 it's going to be a little bit cheaper possibly.
Yes.
Right.
You'll get the concessions still.
Just look at the concessions.
If the market does go back to being busier, you're going to get the equity boost in your house. So
Mhm.
you're going to get more money by buying now than you, I can't say guarantees, but if that happens,
One of the possibilities,
yes, is
Yeah.
that you'll gain more equity in your
Yeah.
house by buying it now.
Yeah. And the other key thing is about FHA, I have to confirm with a BA, but I'm pretty sure it's the exact same thing because they're both government loans. Even if prices did go down, you could still refinance because it's a streamline. And I don't believe one of the options for FHA is you don't have to do an appraisal again.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Oh,
And I think the
okay.
same is true for VA loans. So worst case scenario, let's just say home prices do go down a little bit,
Yeah.
right? And you don't have necessarily the full equity you need. Don't need it with the streamline,
Right.
right? So just feel like you're a little bit more safeguarded and make sure that you just feel a little bit more safer about doing it. Feel like you're not going to have to worry about being stuck with that interest rate, even if the home
Right.
wouldn't appraise in a
Yeah.
sense.
And I think that's my big thing, like I got into real estate. Well, I was already in the industry I've been in and out for like a while.
Yeah.
I was licensed in 2008, not to age myself.
Mhm.
And then got out of it,
Mhm.
got back into it on the marketing side in
Mhm.
2018.
Yes, I remember
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was in it for a couple years there, and then I switched to the sales side in 2022, so last year.
Mhm.
And 2 years ago. Oh,
It's
already.
2024.
Yeah, I know. But I was at like the middle of the year. Anyway,
Year and a half.
yes, a year and a half ago. But anyway, I lost my train of thought.
You started in the sales side, or you started in
Yep.
2008.
Yep.
Mhm.
I don't remember where I was going with that.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's
We'll
my
circle
fault.
back to that.
It's my fault. Anyways, but yeah, no, VA loans, again, I think so. We touched on the fact that they're 0% down, right?
Yes.
You can have more than one as long as you meet certain stipulations.
Yes.
Hi, Auto. You can, oh, there's one of the things, cosigners. So just
Oh,
know
okay.
what kind of cosigners you can have in a VA loan. And this is a guideline kind of situation. You cannot have anyone but your spouse, like your married spouse,
Correct.
as a cosigner on these kinds of loans. So we can't do any kind of tricks with like cosigners in a
Right.
sense.
Yeah. And you can't, if you're not married yet, significant others cannot be on the loan. And then also, if your spouse isn't on the loan, you still take their credit into
Mhm.
consideration.
If you're married, yes.
If you're married, yes.
In specific states.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are in a community property state. That's why. So Nevada, California, and a few of the other states in this area are in community property states. And if you're doing any kind of government loan, which includes VA, USDA, and FHA loans, you have to add or still use your spouse's debts against your income. So my opinion is, if your spouse can be on the loan, especially if they have income, just put them on the loan.
Oh, yeah.
Because you'd rather have that income there to offset some of that stuff.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
And then, too, maybe that gives you a little bit of help of how much you can afford,
Mhm,
So.
But you can also consider like how much you want to pay or your payment and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
Definitely.
What else did we talk about? So we got that. The zero down interest rates are better. That's about it in terms of the VA loan. VA loan's pretty simple.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just love the guidelines. So how many stations do we have here? Is the one thing I wanted to bring
Oh,
up,
okay.
actually.
So technically, there's 3.
Okay.
We have Nellis,
Uh-huh.
we have Creech, and we have the Las Vegas metropolitan area.
Where's that one?
It's up north.
Oh, okay. Wait, where north? Like Reno?
No.
Carson?
No.
In the middle of the desert?
Somewhere.
Kind of reminds you of the one like in California. There's one in like the Palm Desert. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I had to go pick up my phone one time from there. But so we have those areas. So I know a lot of people in terms of buyers that would be military would assume that it'd probably be best for them to buy in those specific areas, but that's not necessarily true, right?
No, you can live anywhere. I mean, like,
how close are the other two, like the Creech one and
okay. So Creech, you, depending on how far you want to drive, you can live in Indian Springs. They have housing up there.
Yes.
I think one of the home builders was just finishing up a project up there last year, but they're putting in some new construction up there. So if you are fine making the drive back down here to get groceries, because there's no like real grocery store, things like that, like normal like amenities.
It's like 45-minute drive from here specifically.
It's about a half hour.
Half hour?
It's not that long.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's that option, or you can live like out in the northwest area, so Centennial Hills, Sky Canyon, Providence, Valley Vista, even like North Las Vegas. I've seen people live as far as Revere and 215 who work at Creech.
And for those that hear about North Las Vegas and don't know Vegas, North Las Vegas has changed. There's areas to North Las Vegas, and then there's areas to North Las Vegas.
Yeah, and like North Las Vegas is very nice.
Yeah, it's all new homes.
Very
now
nice,
at this
all
point.
new homes, and it's beautiful. I love like Valley Vista is awesome. Aliante, beautiful.
Oh yeah, Aliante is out here as well.
Aliante is very, very
very
nice.
underrated. Aliante.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of great and what's great about Vegas too in general is it's very family friendly. Like if you have kids, there's parks everywhere. You have dogs, there's walking trails everywhere.
Yeah.
Like
you got
it's
outdoorsy stuff, indoorsy stuff for the summertime.
There's splash pads at every park almost. I can't say every park, but like everywhere you go, there's a huge splash pad.
There's a few companies out here that very specifically have things like jump areas, like jump places for them for kids to go to. I know you wouldn't think certain places on the strip are kid friendly, but obviously they have to make certain things near the strip pretty kid friendly stuff.
Actually a lot of kid friendly stuff.
I did see a post recently. Is Universal bringing something out here? Are they making a park
out
here?
I've heard like on and off, back and forth things about between like Universal and even Disney, but I don't know anything for sure.
Disney would do
I
anything
don't know.
out here. Probably
I think I heard the movie studios are trying to move out here.
Yes,
some of the movie studios are.
Yeah,
but I don't know if the theme park has been set in stone. Maybe it has.
Did you know we used to have theme parks out here?
I mean, I know of like Circus.
MGM used to have one back out here too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was one right behind the MGM when I was a kid. I used to live out here a few times when I was a kid. So this was like the 90s.
Okay.
There was another one somewhere else. I forgot. But, it used to be a little bit different, Vegas was. But Vegas is always evolving.
Yeah.
And also the family thing. Because Vegas wasn't necessarily always known for its family
Right. The whole Sin
before.
City thing probably kind of like, gave
Mhm.
a different
Mhm. Yeah.
perspective of what that might be.
But that's where you got to separate Las Vegas, the
Strip, yep.
from like Las Vegas, the city.
Yeah,
at this point.
absolutely. It's completely two different things.
Yeah, and it's a lot more friendly. I know they're trying to change a lot of things to make it more not attainable, but just attract more people here to bring their families and stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah. I mean, even like our jobs market, they're
Mhm.
bringing so many warehouses, everything to
Mhm.
Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And so if you're like thinking that if you live here, you have to work at a casino,
Mhm.
no way.
Mm-mm.
Nope. Not
No.
even true.
No, there's a lot of different industries out here that you might want to learn about. A lot of union jobs. It's a very union town.
Oh, yeah.
Military jobs,
Mhm.
regular jobs. I know they're always looking for healthcare workers out here. 'Cause
Oh,
they're always having
healthcare is
their
a huge one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to get poached and moved out here as a healthcare worker, I know a lot of companies are always looking for those.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think I'm trying to think of what else we can talk about for VA.
I mean, yeah, we were talking about areas to live, now
Mhm.
our creatures out in the Northwest.
Mhm.
If you work at the Las Vegas metropolitan area, you could really live anywhere. You just kind of want to be near the airport. 'Cause that's how you get to work.
Oh, okay.
And then the Nellis, Nellis is actually like a lot of people live Henderson area, very even farther down south. I've seen people living closer, like on the outskirts when you're kind of going out towards Boulder City.
Ooh.
It's pretty far, but like I said, location. That's real estate's rule, right? And so, but also up north, I've seen people at Nellis living in Providence and Centennial Hills and stuff too. So it really just depends on there's the 215
You got a 250.
really will take you anywhere,
Yeah.
And so once you get on the highway, it
Yeah.
really is just like a pretty straight shot. And they've even like when I moved here a few years ago,
Mhm.
the area down by the 215 to get to Nellis was kind of like a really roundabout way.
Mhm.
They've made that
Yeah, they connected
completely. Yep,
everything.
they connect everything, so it's not
Everything's
even like that
connected.
anymore.
Even over here, when I first moved out here, the 215 wasn't connected in the Northwest area yet. I think they finished it about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But the 215, if you guys don't know what is a beltway, is what they call it in a
Yeah.
sense. So in a sense, it goes around the entire city on the outside. There
Yeah.
are a couple another freeway that kind of cuts through the center.
Yep.
Just in case you need to go through there, which is the 95. But the 215, easiest access to a lot of places. It used to be a lot less traffic. It's getting a little bit more because we have a lot of people moving here.
Absolutely. But they just
still
finished
easy.
that like connection to in Centennial. I forget what they call it, 215-95 exchange. And so now you can get to the 215 east and west from the 95.
Oh,
And that's made it so much faster.
the north, what are they trying to call it? What do we call it? The something
Northwest-
circle?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh,
It's definitely
a lot better.
Yeah, it's better.
A lot better, a lot easier to access a lot of the freeways. You don't have to get off on a certain street and get from one place to the other. So, and I actually was driving down Centennial Parkway the other day, and I was leaving where Chick-fil-A is.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a new way you can actually go under the thing to actually get down to the 215 East from that side of the freeway now.
Oh, I don't even know what you're talking about. I haven't been over there. Maybe I need to
go check it
this
out.
Yeah.
And then you go check it out.
Nice. I didn't even know.
Yeah, go to Walmart.
I don't always go. I go to that area all the time. Yeah.
But if you guys don't know, the Northwest is one of the great places. I need to start doing some social media on like areas in Las Vegas. But other than that, VA.
Yeah. My thing, like I said, like, I got into real estate because
there it is.
I knew we would circle back. It was coming back. I had a lot of friends, military specific, who had been moving and just having these nightmare kind of scenarios happening with agents and everything. And I'm like, I know this industry. I really think that I could be a huge help,
Yeah.
And so I got into it really to help people. And then having found people, lenders especially, who know what they're doing has just made it so much better for me too, because I have people I trust that I can refer, like, or at least have names to hand out and say, you pick, you always decide the lender you go with. I'm not going to pick for you, but here's people that I trust and that clients have used in the past, have had good experiences, and so that's made it really, really, I feel so safe guiding people through this. And I feel that, just asking the questions, to really don't count yourself out until you ask the questions.
It's true.
And talk to good people who are here to help you, who really understand. I have moved this 3 times. We moved from our Midwest to Arizona. We were at Davis Monthan Air Force Base for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
We moved overseas from there to
Mhm.
Japan for 4.5 years and came back. I was pregnant when I moved back, and it was a nightmare. Like the most nightmare PCS. Not most nightmare because my furniture didn't get ruined on the way back, so I can't say it was the most, but it was crazy. You
Yeah.
know, I have gone through these scenarios. I've lived it. I
Mhm.
breathe it every day. And so it's just nice having people, I feel like, who understand your situation
Absolutely.
in addition to understanding your products. You
Yep.
know, like
Mhm.
we know the life, we know what's available to help you.
Mhm.
You know, just
Yeah.
give us a call. We
Yeah.
want to
No.
help you. And like I said too, like I have helped people who've walked away with cash money in their pockets selling their house
Mhm.
who may have not had that without having bought a house, you know,
Yeah.
especially your like airmen, you
Mhm.
know, like enlisted military, having this walking with a huge savings account after
Mhm.
selling your house is such a good feeling because
Mhm.
that's like it's literally ways to build that generational wealth to feel
Mhm.
like you can put your kids through college even though you have your college benefits and everything too. Like if you use because you can use like your college benefit, you can use it for yourself or you can
Mhm.
pass it on to your children.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
so if you use it for yourself and don't pass it on,
Mhm.
you kind of
The
worry
GI
like
Bill?
the GI Bill, am I going
Yeah.
to be able to pay for college or things like that?
Yeah.
Homeownership can help with that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was the GI Bill was a thing until when I was living in California.
Mhm.
One of my roommates, he was ex-military, and he was using his GI Bill
Yeah.
all the time because he was going to school and all that stuff, and he used it to pay rent.
Yeah, you
So
can use it for housing.
again, guys, VA, a lot of great benefits. Not only just VA loans, the GI Bill, the if your
Can you
husband
use
being
your
there for 20
GI
months.
Bill to qualify for a VA loan? Oh.
Ooh, are you? I would assume on this because I know guidelines like this, and I honestly don't know, but maybe if you're gonna continuously get that for maybe 3 years,
Nice.
probably.
That's good to
But I would
know.
have to look at that and
Yeah.
to look into that because
So that's a
honestly,
good way for even like young kids. If you're like a young airman, you're using your GI Bill to put yourself through college.
mm-hmm,
See if you can qualify for that home loan with your GI Bill.
might
And
as
like
well
you said, get
try.
some roommates.
Look, guys, like I said, I love reading guidelines, and I will figure this out.
Yeah,
Easy
absolutely.
peasy. But other than that, yeah, no, I think it's great to work with somebody you can relate to, right? And I think
Absolutely.
like you were talking about there is like since you've experienced everything being in the military, it's really great to work with somebody who's going to understand your situation a little bit more, especially when it comes to like let's just say the relocation aspect of it.
Oh, absolutely.
You lived it through the tougher time with the
Yeah.
pregnant thing.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
That was crazy.
so it's
Very
it's
emotional time.
yeah, it's you being able to talk to your clients when they're going through all these things. You know what I mean? Having sometimes your agents aren't just your agents to buy your home. You're spending time with them, so you're probably gonna have real conversations with them. You're gonna have probably let go of some stress when you talk
Oh,
to them and
yes.
create a relationship with them.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a good point actually. Just talking to somebody who is relatable to you as well, in some
Yeah.
senses too. If it's a different kind of loan, not a VA loan, it might be maybe you guys like the same hobbies.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you guys went to the same schools, whatever the case may be. You know,
Yeah,
everything's a
I
little bit
think,
different.
and there's people too that think like just because I started working with my agent doesn't mean you have to keep them. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like ultimately you're paying these people to help you,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to make sure that you have a good experience
Mm-hmm.
because I've known people who have bought their house and walked away and said, I didn't learn anything. I don't even know, like, I don't want to use an agent again because I didn't learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how I
Mm-hmm.
operate. I want you to know
Mm-hmm.
everything we're doing. I'll walk you through the steps. I know you're the same way. Like we walk you through it to make sure that when you go to do it again,
Mm-hmm.
you feel confident that you already know. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I've done this before. Good to go. I feel good that the people helping me actually helped me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It,
that it's money well spent.
yeah.
Absolutely.
This is one of the best times to go through, one of the most stressful times. And I can say this, like I said, I was helping my brother with a loan out in California. He's called me a lot, and that's perfectly fine to call, right? I'm here to
Yeah.
answer your questions for you. I'm here to make sure that you understand and everything. And he wanted to make sure, like, he had a lot of trust and feeling okay to ask me all these questions. You know what I mean? And you want to have that feeling when you're talking to an agent
Oh,
to feel
yeah.
like you're not impeding
Yeah.
on their time.
You're, yeah, not a burden.
But you know, it's be one of those people. If you really want to learn these things, ask the questions. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I will say this: there's a lot of information, and you may forget about some of the stuff you learn right around this time, and don't feel bad about that. I've said
Absolutely.
this before. It is a lot
Yeah.
of information. You know what I mean?
And things
So
change too.
all the
All the
time.
time.
All the time. I get
All the time.
email updates on programs
Yeah.
daily. daily, because with the company I work with, we work with a bunch of different companies. Everybody has their different guidelines, their different this is and that. So it's a lot of things to keep up with, but that's not your burden. Your burden is to
Mhm.
understand the basics, what you need to know about lending. I'm not telling you to become a lender or a real
No,
estate agent,
that's our
but
job.
just enough to know where you feel comfortable, like you said,
Yeah.
to understand what that person is telling you when they're talking to you,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of jargon as well.
And trust that they're giving you good information too. Like
Hmm.
you want to feel like you really have that trust in place that yeah,
Hmm.
I can ask the questions, but are you going to give me like the right answer? Like,
Hmm.
like there's
Yeah.
still those scenarios out there
Yeah.
too where
Yeah.
people are very, A-type personalities want to know all the details
Hmm.
and make sure that you have somebody that you trust is giving you all the right details.
Exactly.
So,
So do your research.
do your research, don't count yourself out,
Yeah.
ask the questions,
Yep.
and let's get you into a home.
Mhm. And don't worry about only using a VA lender that says they do VA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, not that's a huge misconception.
But
Talk to people, yeah.
other than that, I think we touched on just about a lot of
We
what
could
we can
go
on
far,
VA.
yeah, right.
Unless I started getting into guidelines, which I'm not trying to do with all everything. But I really do appreciate you coming by and doing this
Absolutely. Thank
topic
you
with
for
me.
having
Of
me.
course,
Yes.
she lives down the street. We should
I
have done this
know.
sooner.
I
You know
know.
what I mean?
Right?
But I needed to find the right time to really get this going. And
Yeah.
hopefully
And I'm always open to coming back too. So if you think of some things
yeah,
that you want to talk
I
about
really
more,
enjoyed
I know. This was
the
fun.
back and forth. It was.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. And
Me
my
too.
new background.
I love it. I like it. Feels very Daniel.
Yeah, it is very me.
It's very
I'll
Daniel.
get into details about my background in the future. There are some personal things up here. But in the meantime, VA loans are great, guys. If you guys have any other questions about the lending side, especially VA loans, FHA loans, whatever the case may be, reach out to me directly. You can find my cell phone number, my email. You can find me on my socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
Oh, so you are on Facebook.
I am on
I
Facebook.
actually know
I
that because
don't
we're
use
friends
it.
on Facebook.
I don't use it very often. You'll find me better off on the other ones.
Yeah.
And go ahead and tell them where they can find you again.
Same. You can find my information on Facebook,
Mhm.
Instagram, my website.
Do you have your tags? Do you know?
I have tags. I have a Google business page. If you just Google Christine Phillip, Las Vegas Realtor, I pop right up.
Mhm.
And it's Phillip with 2 L's in the middle and 2 P's at the end.
There we go.
There we
That's
go.
it.
That's important.
I've misspelled her name before. So that
That's
said,
okay.
guys, well, I really do appreciate your guys' time here. If you guys like this information, please like this, share it with anybody who might need it, comment, whatever the case may be. Hope to see you guys next time on the next episode, and you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me again.
Bye.
Bye.